Zombies. I've discussed them in the past. Out of all the classic monster archetypes, they're probably my least favorite, because ever since the early 2000s, I think they've been overexposed to a nauseating degree in film, television, and video games. It's not that these stories can't appeal to me, just that a lot of them, in my opinion, haven't tried to do anything that fresh and interesting with their material. When picking a zombie storyline to cover this year, I decided to go with 2014's gory and amusing four-part Night of the Living Deadpool, written by Cullen Bunn and illustrated by Ramon Rosanes. Bunn is known for his horror novels and short stories. It's a genre you can see he's very familiar with and passionate about. In Night of the Living Deadpool, I think Bunn does what he can to inject some of these tired zombie cliches with a bit of originality. Naturally, the meta-humor Deadpool comics bring to the table help this series stand out too, placing Deadpool in this kind of grim and hopeless setting. After gorging himself on chimichangas, the Merc with the Mouth wakes up after a week-long food coma. He finds the world seemingly deserted. He's seen enough post-apocalyptic movies to know something must be up. He just doesn't understand how everything could end so fast, without any warning signs at all. He feels like he's been punked. But in flashbacks, we see that Deadpool had seen the warning signs. Criminals he interrogated falling to their deaths only to stand back up again, people coughing up blood, biting each other, men in hazmat suits, the undead walking around in cemeteries. He was just oblivious to all of it. He wasn't paying attention. While Doomsday was happening, DP was resting his eyes and his stomach. Deadpool would clutch his belly and say he's starving, ravenous, which is funny seeing as zombies are known for their insatiable appetites. He yells out for anyone to respond. A lone zombie walks out of the dust and debris and abnormally speaks, saying he doesn't want to do this, but can't help himself as he attempts to devour Deadpool. The man asks our would-be hero to put him out of his misery, and he does, by cutting off his head and shooting him point blank with his pistol. The noise attracts a horde of zombies to Deadpool's location. They too are all speaking. What I like about the flesh eaters in this story is that they aren't mindless, but self-aware. They know what they are doing is wrong, but can't control the actions of their bodies. They are forced to witness all the grisly violence they commit. The comic refers to it as their leftover consciousness, trapped inside their heads until their brain tissue fully dies. Deadpool finds it off-putting, and as the reader, you do too. DP would be saved by a small group of survivors and hop into the back of their truck. There's a boy in 5th grade named Joey, his 3rd grade sister Willow, a young man in a baseball cap named Radcliffe, and a cursing old lady they just call Grandma behind the wheel. Deadpool wonders where all of the other superheroes have gone, and why they didn't help stop the zombie outbreak. Radcliffe informs him that he's the only one left. The virus has affected the entire world, not just New York City. The team's plan is to have the recently bitten soldier they have with them convince his superiors to let them out of the quarantine zone before he turns. When they arrive at the barricade, they find that it's been breached. Deadpool, Radcliffe, and the kids exit the truck to look for survivors. Grandma is attacked by the soldier who has become a zombie. Deadpool gets rid of the creatures and takes control of the truck so he and the rest of them can escape. For 2 whole months, they all search for supplies and a place where they can set up base, but none of the locations they come across appear safe or meet Deadpool's harsh and oftentimes irrelevant requirements. They end up camping out near an old graveyard and share what little food they have left with each other, a single granola bar. Yummy. Deadpool would doze off, and when he is woken up by Radcliffe, is told that the children have disappeared. When they go out into the woods to search for them, they realize they have been turned into zombies too, attempting to surprise them with captured food in the morning. Radcliffe gets eaten by the children. DP says the kids he knew had manners and would have known better than to chew with their mouths open. Like all viruses, this one may have mutated to affect the long dead and not just the recently deceased. During his battle with the turned children, Deadpool was bitten by one of them, but the wound begins to heal thanks to his regeneration factor. He's experiencing a bit of survivor's guilt on his way into West Virginia. He comes across a small town sectioned off full of happy families. It looks to be an oasis, disconnected from all the chaos around it. A group of church ladies approach Deadpool on the hill and tell him they have traveled long and far hearing rumors of this paradise. They all pull out weapons from their purses and intend on burning the town to the ground. They believe its inhabitants are full of sin, and that their survival goes against the will of their almighty God. At first, it seems as though Deadpool will join up with the delusional women and attack the town for a laugh, only for it to be revealed that he did the sensible thing and sliced off all their heads to present to the men guarding the town on its outskirts. DP would be treated like a celebrity by the citizens of the town, called New Harper's Ferry. He's asked tons of questions about the outside world, seeing as they haven't seen it in months. A group of young women stare at him with fuck eyes, and a horny old lady gives his keister a nice squeeze. He feels at home, and believes this place could be the second chance everybody needs. Deadpool would investigate the town's cemetery, fearing that the dead will begin rising out of it due to the potential virus mutation. His bite wound from earlier hasn't been healing properly, which concerns him. He suddenly hears a noise, and it's a bunch of kids who tell him there is another supposed superhero living in New Harper's Ferry that arrived before he did. When Deadpool enters the home, he finds a travel container housing the yellow suit of an AIM scientist. Putting its helmet on, he confronts the old man who owns it, named Clarence. DP threatens to kill him if he even thinks about doing something evil to endanger the town. Problem is, Clarence already has. He explains to Deadpool that he was one of the ones responsible for the zombie virus. He worked at a subdivision of AIM called AIR, Advanced Ideas in Regeneration. Their parent organization worked in death, and they figured theirs could work in life. AIR's experiments were done with the intention of healing mankind and were derived from the tissue samples of those with regenerative healing factors, Deadpool being one of them. Something I have not brought up yet in my review is this story's brilliant use of color. Ramon Rosanes performed inking and coloring duties on top of his pencils. Almost everything you see in the story is in black and white. It makes it feel like an old-school monster movie. The only splashes of color used are the ones depicting the flashback sequences at the beginning, Deadpool, and anything else he interacts with in the present that is still clean, stuff that hasn't been tainted by the horrors of the zombie plague. Deadpool's bite wound is also in black and white, because that's the unliving part of him, and when the virus overpowers his healing factor, the color is drained from the rest of him too, as the infection spreads. Yup, you heard me right. Deadpool turns into a brain-chewing zombie. He kills everyone in New Harper's Ferry before feeling sick and throwing up body parts in an alley. This causes his color to return to him, as if he just came down with a bad case of the flu. What's been happening is that his healing factor is playing an endless game of tug-of-war with the virus, just like what it does with the cancerous tumors that riddle his body. Why Wade Wilson is so pretty to look at. Surrounded by the zombified inhabitants of the town, Deadpool starts throwing hands, or swords. He separates Clarence's head from his body, and with his directions, will find the secret air lab, and hopefully put an end to the zombie virus. When they arrive, the facility is swarming with the undead. I love how Deadpool has Clarence's head on what is essentially a leash, and swings him around as a weapon against the other zombies. By this point, Clarence's brain had degraded and is no longer of any use. Deadpool finds a flashlight, and upset that he won't have a free hand to stab and shoot enemies while holding Clarence, he improvises and shoves it into his skull to use him as a lantern to search the rest of the facility. Eventually, the flesh of Clarence's jaw begins to liquefy, and Deadpool is forced to kill him. He thanks him for all his help finding the lab, and says every time a 9mm rings, an angel gets its wings. Ah. Deadpool makes it to the inner laboratory and finds the green super healing formula Air had been working on, as well as copies of his body being used as tissue samples. Attacked by unrelenting zombies, in an act of desperation, DP chugs down all of the super healing juice, which is like a steroid for his healing factor. It improves his appearance, and he lets all of the zombies chow down on him. The zombies that feast on him regain their consciousness, which have all been replaced by Deadpool's. His healing factor and consciousness infects zombie after zombie as they bite each other. Though the zombie virus has not been cured, all of them have now been transformed into extensions of Deadpool, making him omnipotent on planet Earth. Night of the Living Deadpool is a fun story. The idea of him sleeping through the apocalypse is great. I like how its ending isn't cliché, with this, let's be honest, less than stellar hero curing everybody with sunshine and rainbows. I don't think Deadpool has the capacity to accomplish that, given the state of him. I think he is the best kind of person to be the only one of us left, though, because Deadpool's insanity would allow him to have the most fun during Armageddon, and not be bogged down by too many serious emotions that would stop anyone else in their tracks and demolish their will to live after a while. Being crazy already is definitely an asset. The story has a parental advisory due to its language and graphic visuals. Makes sense. Even if you aren't a fan of the title character, I think Night of the Living Deadpool is still a great zombie story that features all of the standard tropes and a few interesting new ideas, mainly turning the monsters from mindless to self-aware. I think this comic should be turned into a feature film at some point down the road. I think you could do a lot with its premise. Let me know what you thought of Night of the Living Deadpool down in the comments section below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that bell icon to be notified of all my future content, and become a producer over on Patreon if you can. Thanks for watching the first installment of Halloween 2024. Stay tuned every day leading up to the 31st for new Halloween-themed videos. I've got a lot more spooky stuff to talk about. Take care and stay nerdy.